Hello students, welcome back to your history class. We finished two sections of our book. We are going to start with the third section, that is changing tradition. Up till now, we have seen how by the 9th century, large parts of Asia and Africa witnessed the growth and expansions of great empires. We have not done the nomadic empire because that chapter has been omitted. But you all have seen the development of Mesopotamia. You've seen the Islamic lands. You've seen the development of writing also. So you all have seen the growth and expansion of great empires. The difference between Macedonian, Roman, and Arab empires are the ones that preceded them. That is the Egyptian, Assyrian, Chinese, and the Mauryan. And they covered great areas of territory, and they were continental or transcontinental in nature. The Mongol Empire was very similar. Then, different cultures encountered were crucial to what took place. The arrival of empires was almost sudden, and they were almost always the result of changes that had been taking place over a long time in the core of what would become an empire. So these empires, they came very suddenly, and they and it was always a result of changes that had been taking place over a long piece of time. Okay, and then the core of the empire would change. The traditions in world history could change in different ways. In Western Europe, during the period of the 9th to the 17th century, much that we connect with the modern times evolved slowly. The development of scientific knowledge based on experiment rather than religious belief, serious thought about the organization of government with attention to the creation of civil services, parliaments, and different codes of law, improvement in technology that was used in industry and agriculture, the consequences of these changes could be felt with great force outside Europe. Okay, so the Roman Empire in the West had disintegrated. By the 5th century, the Roman Empire in the West had disintegrated. In Western and Central Europe, the remains of Roman Empire were slowly adapted to the administrative requirements and needs of tribes that had been established kingdoms there. However, urban centers were smaller in the Western Europe than further east. By 9th century, the commercial and urban centers, that is Aix, London, Rome, Siena, although they were small, but they could not be dismissed. So commercial and urban centers had developed. From the 9th century to 11th century, there were major developments in the countryside in the Western Europe. The church and royal government developed a combination of Roman institution with the customary rules of the tribes. So the church and royal developed government, they made a they merged the Roman institution with the customary rules of the tribes. And the finest example was the empire of Charlemagne, which is in the Western and Central Europe at the beginning of the 9th century. Now, even after its rapid collapse, urban centers and trading networks, they still persisted, they still stayed. Even after heavy attack from Hungarians, Vikings, and others, they were still persisting. What happened was called feudalism. Feudalism was marked by the agricultural production around the castles and manor houses, where the lords of the manor they possessed the land that was cultivated by the peasants. These peasants they pledged loyalty and they were given goods and services. These lords in turn pledged their loyalty to greater lords who were vassals of the king. The Catholic Church centered on the papacy that is supported this state of affairs and it itself possessed the land. So the Catholic Church was the one who was owning the land. In a world where uncertainties of life, poor sense of medicine, and low life expectancy was common, the church showed people how to behave so that the life after death at least could be tolerable. Okay, now this is how it was working. This was the hierarchy over there. So the lords of the manor they possessed the lands, and this land was cultivated by the peasants who had pledged loyalty, goods, and services to them. These lords, in turn, pledged their loyalty to greater lords who were vassals of the king. And the Catholic Church, that centered on papacy, it supported this state of affairs and it itself possessed the land. Okay, so there is serfs, then there is vassals to lord, then vassals to king, and then finally king. Monasteries were created where God fearing people would devote themselves to service of God in a way the Catholic churchmen thought fit. Equally, churches were part of a network of scholarships that ran from the Muslim states of Spain to Byzantium, and they provided the petty kings of Europe with a sense of opulence of the Eastern Mediterranean and beyond. The influence of commerce and towns in the feudal order came to evolve and change, and this encouraged by the Mediterranean entrepreneurs in Venice and Gunna. Their ships carried on a growing trade with Muslim states and the remains of the Roman East Empire in the east. Attached by the lure of wealth in these areas and inspired by the idea of freeing the holy places associated with the price from Muslims, European kings reinforced the links across the Mediterranean during the Crusades. Okay, now trade within Europe improved, centered on the fairs and port cities of the Baltic Sea and the Northern Sea, and stimulated by the growing population. So the trade improved, and because of the Crusades, okay, so during the Crusades, European kings they reinforced their links to the Mediterranean. Opportunities for the commercial expansion coincided with the changing attitudes, concerns the value of life, respect for human beings and living beings that marked much of Islamic art and literature. An example of Greek art and ideas that came to Europe from the Byzantine trade encouraged the Europeans to take a look at the world. All this forced the Europeans to have a look at the world. So, from the 14th century, especially in the North Italian towns, the wealthy became less concerned with life after death and more concerned with the wonders of life itself. Sculptors, painters, writers, they became they became interested in the humanity and the discovery of the world. Now, by the end of the 15th century, the stage of affairs encouraged travel and discovery none like before. The voyages of discovery took place. Spaniards and Portuguese, who had traded with the northern Africa, pushed further down the coast of Western Africa, reaching the journeys around Cape of Good Hope right till India, which had a great reputation in the Europe as a source of spices. They were in great demand. Columbus attempted to find a western route to India, and in 1942 it reached the island where the Europeans called the West Indies. Other explorers tried to find a northern route to India and China via the Arctic. European travelers, they encountered a range of different people in their course of their journey. In part, they were interested in learning from them. The papacy encouraged the work of the northern African geographer and traveler Hassan al-Wazan, later known in Europe as Leo Africanus. He wrote the first geography of Africa in the early 16th century, and he wrote it for Pope Leo X. Jesuit churchmen, he observed and wrote on Japan in the 16th century. An Englishman, Will Adams, he became a friend and counselor of the Japanese shogun. Tokugawa Ieyasu in the early 17th century. Hassan al-Wazan felt that the people in the European countries encountered the Americans often, and they took great interest in them and sometimes worked for them. For example, an Aztec woman, later known as Dona Marina, she befriended the Spanish and conqueror of Mexico, Cortes, and interpreted and negotiated for them. In their encounters, the Europeans, sometimes cautious, self effacing, and observant, even though they were frequently attempted to establish trade monopolies and enforce their authority by force of arms, as the Portuguese attempted to do in the Indian Ocean after Vasco da Gama's arrival in Calicut. In other cases, they were overbearing, aggressive, and cruel, and they adopted an attitude of superiority to those that they met. Considering such people ignorant, the Catholic Church encouraged both attitudes. The Church was the center of study of the other cultures and languages, but it encouraged attack on people it saw as unchristian. So the Catholic Church had also become violent, and it was also allowing attacks on the people that they thought were non-Christians. Now, if we look at the point of view from non-Europeans, the encounter with Europe varied. Most of the Islamic lands, India and China, though Europeans remained a curiosity until the end of 17th century, they were perceived as hardy travelers and seamen who had little to contribute to their sense of the larger world. The Japanese learned some of the advantages of European technology quickly. For instance, they had begun large scale production of muskets by the late 16th century. In Americas, enemies of the Aztec Empire sometimes used the Europeans to challenge the power of the Aztecs. Same time, diseases the Europeans brought, they devastated the population, leading to the death of over 90% of people in some areas by the end of 16th century. Again, in your textbook, there is a timeline. You all know you all are going to show this timeline in your notebooks. You are going to draw this timeline and you're going to stick the appropriate pictures. I have already done one in the previous video. I have drawn a timeline and shown you all. Each timeline of a different color. They are going to show you 6 regions: Africa, Europe, Asia, South Asia, America, and Australia. I'm not, so this is your homework for the day. Okay, so basically, period under consideration has witnessed several major developments in Europe, including the changes in agriculture and the lives of the peasants. It's also marked by a range of cultural developments. So this particular timeline of this section draws attention to the contact between the continents, which was simulated by many instances by the growth of trade, and the impact of these contacts was varied. While ideas, inventions, and goods were shared across continents, there was also a constant warfare between kingdoms to control lands, resources, and access to trade routes. As a result, men and women, often displaced and enslaved, if not exterminated. In many ways, the lives of people were transformed beyond recognition. Okay, so this was the end of today's class. You all know you're going to do the timelines in your notebook. With this, I end today's class. Stay home, stay safe, take care, and keep learning. Thank you.